to show you how to deploy a Django application on Render, and this is the application which I have deployed. As you can see the link. So I'm going to show you step by step on how to deploy the Django application as I did. Let us get started. The first thing that you need to do is you need to go to render.com. Make sure you register if you haven't registered, and if you have the Render account already, all you need to do is just log into the application, and then we will navigate to dashboard.render.com. This is where we're going to choose what you want to do. I'm assuming that you have a Django application that you have created. I'm not going to create a Django application from scratch. I expect you to have a Django application so that we just do the deployment. So the first thing that you're going to do, guys, after navigating to your Render platform, all you need to do is you go to the accounts section and make sure that you have correctly connected to the GitHub platform. So this is where you connect. Under your profile, you'll see GitHub login, connect, click on connect, and then after that you'll be set. You'll have your GitHub account connected to Render. This is really important because we are going to use our repositories so that we can connect our repositories to the Render platform. Alright guys, now let us set our database. So our database, we are going to change a couple of things. When you navigate to your settings.py file where the database variable is, we're going to change all of this and make sure that we add our Postgres setup. We are going to use Postgres setup. So let's create our database, and then just name your database any name that you want. In my case, I'm going to call it Algo Atlas, and then you just leave the region the way it is, Postgres version the way it is, and then for me I'm using the free tier, so I'm going to use the instance type which is free. And if you want to upgrade this, it's up to you guys. You don't need to add anything to do with the Datadog API, so we are good to go. So let us create our database. It will take a few minutes to just create the instance, so just be patient. You can see these are the settings. Here we have two tabs, one for internal connection and the external connection. If I'm connecting from outside Render, I'm going to use external database URL. If I'm using the internal one, I'm going to use the internal database. I'm going to copy the external database URL. Now we need to install DJ database URL. This is useful because we are going to change our database engine. So let us go forward and install DJ database URL. Alright, we are going to import DJ database URL in our settings.py after installing it. You're good to go. Then we scroll down. Then what you're going to do, this will be databases. Then we access the default key, which this will be the DJ database URL, then .paz. So we are literally saying we want just to use this URL, this Postgres URL. Paz. In this section that adding the paz function is being called, we need to add our environment variable, which we'll call the database URL. Okay, we are not going to expose our URL in our settings.py file. The reason I'm using .env file, I want all these environment variables to be accessed from this file. It's the URL that you got from Render there. So our key environment is called database URL. So we're going to add it here, going to add it there, then we're good to go. So let us try to run this application and see if the database is correctly connected. Let me just run migrate first so that I update the migrations. In the remote database, we have an issue, SOMACODE 2. So we need to install this because we are using Postgres. We need to install that dependency, SOMACODE 2. So you'll find it in the pypy.org website. Let's look at the version that we need. Let's install SOMACODE 2 binary. As per now, this is the latest version, which is 2.99. Then I will add this in the requirements.txt. right, the next thing, let's do the migrations and confirm if this database is connected. All right, so the migrations are working as expected. We have already the migrations applied. Let's see what if the database is running as expected. So we are testing the connection of the remote database that we created using Render, and we can see if it's working on the application. So our application is up and running. So let's go to localhost 8000. Okay, this is the application, it's up and running. Okay, let me go to the admin. You can see the admin has not been created. Okay, we can't access the application, so we will need to create an admin because the database is empty. We did the migrations, created the database, and it doesn't have any data. I'm going to create a super user. There you go, we have the administrator created. Now let's access the application. You see now everything is up and running, is okay now. The next thing we are going to work on is now deploying the application, and also we need to have a way to make sure that the deployed application can access the environment variables. So guys, we can see the connection is working as expected. So now let's think about deploying the Django application. So what we're going to do, we are going to create a new service, which is a web service. Let's go back to the dashboard. So you're going to create a new web service. To create the new web service, guys, we just click on new, and then we click on web service. Then we click build and deploy from a Git repository. Okay, you can connect through a public repository. You can see guys are already connected with GitHub. Make sure at this point you have connected your Render account with GitHub so that you can view all your repositories. If you don't have a Django project on GitHub, make sure you create it and then you push all your code there so that you can access it through this platform. Let me just change some of the things here. Okay, so we're going to access debug through the environment variables, and then also the secret key. It's always nice to hide this. You always need to put all of this into the environment variables. Here, let me confirm if I named this the same way in the environment variable. Yeah, looks good. Then you put the, okay, we're good to go. Loud hosts, also this one we need to change. I'll send this code to my GitHub repository, and then we're going to deploy this on the web service that we are going to create on Render. I've pushed the code on GitHub, have a code there. Another thing, guys, make sure your GitHub repository has a gitignore file. This gitignore file will ignore the .env file, which we have our secrets there so that we don't expose them on our GitHub repository. This is really important that you have this. Okay, guys, our repo has been set. So let us reload our page. We're going to reload this render page where we are going to, yes, we connect the repository. Then I'll connect my repository. I'm going to call this the name of the web service. So the main repository will be main, the root directory, runtime. Okay, then the build command. We're going to run the requirements. Let me just look at my requirements.txt. Okay, so I don't need this dependency. So guys, you don't need to do this. This is just my thing I'm doing. Depends on your project, what you're doing. So I just need to check the current version of this package before I deploy. Then another thing is when the command Gunicon, then this application runs, we need to install Gunicon. Gunicon is used to run your application in production. My application is this is core, so I'll change this to core.wsg. You will find this file here. This is the wsg file. So I'm accessing core.wsg.py. So this is where it's running. Depending on your project, how you named it, this will change. I don't know how you named it, but just put the project name and then .wsg. You will not change this. Change only this. Then you can see the instance type. We will have to update our code because we have added Gunicon as a requirement. Let's create our web service. So the good thing about Render is if your app continues to grow, you can decide how you're going to upscale your application. We have an issue here, build failed, no such file or directory requirements.txt. This is a typo, guys. Let me just push this code again. Then we are going to add environment variables.env files. So I'm just going to copy all my environments. And then add secret. So this you can store secret files like .env. Then you do that, done, save. We have saved our environment.env files. There are two options. You can use this one or this one. So you can store secret files like .env files and private keys in Render. These files can be accessed during builds and in your code just like regular files. Secret files are available to read at the root of your repo or Docker context. They are also available to load by absolute path at .etc secrets. Yeah, okay, so let's see if this will work. So let us look at the events. We have an issue. Let's look at the logs. Okay, no matching distribution found for Django 4.12. We've seen the problem. We've seen the problem. So somebody posted this. He was having the same issue. No matching distribution. Okay. Error in your logs shared is requires Python. I expect further up to those logs. Let's see. Specify your version, Python version to match the one you use to develop locally. Okay, this is what we're going to do. Change this to 3.9.5. Then I'll save the changes. Okay, is that okay? So we're going to deploy this again. See now, guys, we have our build successful. All we needed to do is just go to the environment and choose the Python version that you want, and then you see your logs running without any problem. So we are deploying everything and everything should work as expected. If you're using a free option for Render, the deployment pipeline will be so slow. If you're using a paid version, this will be so fast. This is so simple than even deploying a Django application on AWS or Google Cloud or Azure. Don't need to care about the underlying infrastructure. We have the application up and running. It has been deployed. You can see here it's up and running. And let's see the status of the application. So let us go to the application. When I click on this link, we have our application up and running. And that's how, guys, you deploy your application on Render. You see how easy that was? You can see you can deploy a Node application, a Dockerized application, a Python, Django Flask application, Ruby, any application that runs on Go, Rust, PHP, Elixir. If you have any questions to ask, don't forget to mention them on the comments, and don't forget to like the video, and don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next video.